June is recognized as National PTSD Awareness Month, and we are talking to a local mental health counselor about ways to recognize the disorder and how to manage it.
Let's say good morning now to Brittany Todd joining us live. She is a licensed clinical mental health counselor and executive director of B-Balance Counseling in Winston-Salem. Great to have you as always, Brittany. So first question out of the gate is, tell us how common PTSD is.
So much more common than I think we realize. There are about 14 million people per year minimum that experience PTSD and or symptoms of PTSD. And it's not just our veterans, it's certainly our veterans, but I think when we think of PTSD, that's where our mind goes. What we're forgetting is that trauma, being events that bring about fear and a negative impact on our days, on our lives, creates a response that it can develop into PTSD, either short-term and or long-term, which would be chronic. So many other experiences and traumatic events, such things as like car accidents, even things that happen at school for our adolescents and our teens and our college kids. And like we all know, it's no secret, our world has been a bit difficult here recently. So we've seen PTSD be on the rise in the past few years, for sure.
Brittany, I think you brought up a good point. I think a lot of people associate it too with military service and seeing some action and having some of the ill effects from that, but it is a lot more common than people think it is. How is it recognizable? What are some of the symptoms of PTSD?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of them are similar to feeling anxiety and panic and, all these things that way too often we just brush off and decide to try to push through. But they consist of things like intrusive memories, like having sort of flashbacks where you're feeling like you were either right back in that traumatic event or just something that makes you feel extremely unsettled. Nightmares, recurring nightmares related to a traumatic memory. And then avoidance, noticing that maybe you don't want to go to a certain place or you don't want to go be around certain people or things that might trigger a feeling or a sensation or the memory itself. Changes in like your thought or your moods. So if you are finding yourself having more intrusive memories and therefore more negative thoughts or more anxiety producing thoughts, lots of what ifs, feelings of guilt or shame. And then hyperarousal, which definitely can resemble anxiety, and we just think we're being a little too anxious. No, actually, no, and we don't need to blow that off. Hyperarousal can be very distressing, and it can cause things like difficulty sleeping. It can cause changes in moods, like angry outbursts or feeling depressed, even panic attacks. And then just having, maybe memory problems, trouble concentrating, trouble focusing in school, trouble trusting other people, things like that are all symptoms of trauma.
Brittany, a lot of the things that you mentioned are also symptoms of anxiety. Is PTSD something that is usually tied to something specific? How can you differentiate between the two? Because PTSD sounds like it's worse than just a general anxiety situation.
Yeah, it's a great question because it's not easy. There's a lot of different evaluations that as clinicians we can do to kind of pinpoint, what this might be coming from, what's causing the anxiety, to differentiate between a PTSD reaction or diagnosis to just anxiety. Anxiety is a huge component of PTSD, but it's certainly not the only symptom, which is one of the things that really helps us break that apart.
And Brittany, now that we know how to recognize, those symptoms of someone who is experiencing PTSD, we need to talk about treatment. So we know you have some creative ways. We're talking about art therapy as well as creative expression that could possibly help someone process trauma.
Yes, there are a bunch of different ways that we can treat trauma in the world of clinical counseling. One being rapid eye movement desensitization. So it's a technique called EMDR. You may have heard of it, but it's kind of similar to that REM sleep, that phase of sleep where we process a lot of our emotions and our stressors. So having a clinician that can specifically take you through that method can definitely benefit in allowing your brain to be bilaterally stimulated and then work through the distressing event. It's a different approach. You don't have to relive the trauma throughout the process, which is pretty neat. And then art therapy is a creative expression. You know, we love art here at Be Balanced, but it can really help us tap into maybe something that's just buried deep down that we may not want to talk about, we may not want to really bring to life, but we can put on paper or express in a creative way in a form of art.
Brittany, thank you so much for your time this morning. As always, we love to have you on our show and talking about important topics like this for everyone at home. BeBalancedCounseling.com is the website you need to follow along for any sort of updates that Be Balanced Counseling offers in our area. And we will also have this interview posted on our website, triadcw.com as well. If you missed anything throughout the morning, a great resource to share as well.